don't have to worry about it.
No, we don't.
No, we don't. What?
I think he's been talking to Tammy. Hey, Keela.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Paranormal Nation Radio. Not so normal. How's Denise and Ron doing tonight?
Good. No music?
No, I didn't put the music in that one yet. I've been trying to find the right. I've been trying to find the right music and stuff.
Well, but, I'm going to suggest no stripper music. Well, or
actually, come on!
Or
it's
actually,
not so
maybe
normal. Remember?
Yeah, it might. Right. Stripper music might be the best.
It could be. It very well could be.
I could just see everybody jumping to look and go, "What in the hell is that?"
I guess I got to go to the nudie bar and record a little bit. All right. Well, see you later.
Well,
hi, Nigel.
We know where they are now. We know where they are.
What I heard.
Nigel's always in here, the first one.
Hey,
yep.
Nigel.
Hey, Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Ooh, Chris is in here. So
10 seconds apart.
So first of all, before we get started, how's your weather down there? Have you been getting all these tornadoes and bad rain and stuff?
It was nice today.
We got drizzle the other day.
Drizzle.
And yesterday it just didn't ever get. It got sunny for 15 minutes and that was it.
Shorts and t-shirt.
But you saw I went to the beach on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Turned around and went Saturday. So the wind on Saturday was bad.
Was really windy.
Lots of surf and all that. But that, but the doctor told Ron to go to the beach. That was a prescription.
He did.
So we had to go.
If you were there, you'd have heard it.
So
right, because the weather up here hasn't been real bad. I think today got up to 51, 52 and stuff. So
bad. Not for February.
Yeah.
No.
Is that Gary?
Yes.
Hey, Gary.
Yeah.
Facebook user.
Yeah, he's on Facebook user again.
Yeah.
And everything. But,
that's the reason I'm not wearing my sweatshirt that I had on. I don't want to hear about the internet provider.
Okay. But yeah, but you brought us a great guest tonight.
I think so.
And the guest is real close to me up here and stuff. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting because we've investigated same places, different times. So this could be real interesting tonight.
Yeah, we got an invite to his show, and there's a good friend, Farrah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we always like listening to her. And then she kept calling my fellow Missourian. I thought, well, this guy must live, around Springfield or something. And he said something about Chillicothe, and I went, damn, he's up there by Carl and Gary. I said, these guys even know each other?
I
said, they have to know each other. This, it's not that many people.
I've never met our guest personally in any place around here, but I've known of him for 2, 3, 4 years now.
Okay.
Through the paranormal and everything. And I went, well, I got to get a hold of him one of these days because he only lives like 15 miles away from me.
Well, I saw you were friends on Facebook, but we never talked about him, so I didn't know. But so after watching the interview, my first question was, I hope I didn't screw up because he didn't talk a lot.
We know why.
But we know why.
Yeah, with his guest he had on there, you're lucky to get a word in.
Bless her heart.
Yes, she's a sweetheart.
But
just say hi, how you doing, Farrah, and kick back.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah. So if I'm ever sick and I want to have on a guest, it's going to be Farrah or Frank.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll have to worry about a thing. If I put them together, you guys, it'd be horrible.
You put them together, you could sit back and take a nap.
Yeah.
Well, I was almost doing that tonight, but yeah. Hey, Virgil. Tonight our guest is Russell Reynolds. He is a paranormal investigator up there in northern Missouri. So we're going to bring him on and let him finish introducing himself. So Russell, tell us about yourself a little.
Well, I've been investigating the paranormal for close to 30 years now. It started back actually in New York State. And I had my first paranormal experience at 6 years old in a house that I lived in. And I saw my first apparition of a Civil War soldier at 3 o'clock in the morning in my bedroom door. It woke me up when I heard the noise, and it was standing there just looking at me. And I was like one of those kids, just put the blanket over your head like that, and it'll go away. It'll go away.
Right.
Finally, when I got the courage to peek out again, it was gone. And strange things would happen at night in that house. I mean, my mom's knickknacks would move around the shelf. My dad would turn the heat up at night, and he'd wake up freezing in the middle of the night. The heat would be turned down. But us kids were small that we couldn't mess with it. We couldn't even reach the thermostat at all. Water would turn on. Lights would turn on its own. Toilets would flush. And my dog would growl at a wall upstairs all hours of the night and scratch at it. So my dad wanted to rip the wall open, but he never did because we were renting the place with option to buy. And so we eventually, my mom's like, we got to get out of here. This place is too scary. And so we ended up moving. And then several years later, people would move in. They wouldn't stay very long and move out. Well, when I hit probably about 13 or 14, somebody from New York City had bought the place, and they started remodeling. Well, that wall that my father wanted to rip open, they tore it out, and they opened up the attic that had been sealed up, and they found Civil War soldier bayonets, guns, money, uniforms, maps. And so I started doing some history on the place, and come to find out it was a Civil War base and hospital. Oh, wow. So it had its confirmed deaths in it. And then later on, my other house that I lived in, my neighbors up from me, I used to spend the night up there with their son. And at night, we would hear things in his house. And one night, we woke up to a little boy sitting there on the floor bouncing a ball against the wall. And this old man would appear every now and again outside by the barn. And we ended up finding out from one of the ladies that lived in the neighborhood for several years. She said there was an old man that lived up there, and his son drowned in the pond in the woods. And he ended up having a mental breakdown, and he hung himself from one of the beams in the barn. So that sparked my interest with the paranormal, to try to research it, understand it, and to help people with it that been haunted like I was when I was a kid. And so I started out of high school investigating solo, and my buddy and I, we'd just go to abandoned houses. We'd go to cemeteries back in New York State, Pennsylvania. And I started talking with Rob Dermarest from Ghost Hunters International. And I was a DJ back then too, and he was like, I'll make you a deal. I'll help you get started in the paranormal if you make me some mix CDs so I can listen to Going Overseas with GHI. And I'm like, sure, I'll do that for you. So it started from there, and he got me in touch with Florida Ghost Team, who he was part of. And his director, Sean, she would walk me through how to run the group, what it entails, what equipment to get. So then I started to branch beyond life paranormal research back there in 2006, and ran it till about 2012. And then I moved to Missouri here and formed Beyond Life Paranormal Research Missouri. But the other one stayed running probably a couple years after I moved out here. And then my assistant director who was running it, she had some medical issues. So I said, go ahead and shut that group down. I've got this one running. And then it's been running ever since, and it's been gradually building, and the name's been getting out there. I mean, we've been booked solid with residential, because that's mainly what we do, is a lot of residential houses and businesses and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So when you say that you do a lot of residentials and businesses, are you going in there and investigating, going home, coming back and doing and clearing it out? Or are you going in one shot and saying, okay, you're haunted, but we fixed it?
No, I mean, we do a 3 home visit. we'll go in, we'll do our research before we even go in. We'll background check our client to see what we're walking into, if they got a history of mental illness, drugs, they're alcoholics, maybe diagnosed with schizophrenic disorder or anything like that. And then we'll schedule a time, go out there, do our walk around, get our baseline readings, set up our cameras, and investigate for the night. A lot of our clients want us to clear it that night, but we always still go back to verify to make sure they're following our instructions. They're not breaking the salt barriers, letting something back in, or they're not reverting back to their old habits that they were doing.
Where in New York did you live? Were you a Civil War soldier?
Southern part of New York State. My town was actually the border of Pennsylvania and New York.
Okay.
Around the Catskill Mountains.
Yeah.
I used to live in Paterson, New Jersey.
Okay, I know where Paterson is. I've been there several times.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like it was when I lived there. But I know it's different. And then I was actually born and raised in Baltimore.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I've been born and raised in New York, Harris, New York. I was born and raised, and lived in Liberty, New York for a while. Then moved to Callicoon, New York. And that's where I stayed until I moved in 2012.
Yeah, we've been all over Kansas and Missouri for years until recently, and we just moved here to Florida in June.
Oh, so awesome. Yeah, I saw you guys moved.
Yeah, we're really learning about the area and what's different. I mean, we have a cemetery here that has a Revolutionary War soldier buried in it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And there was only, there really weren't Revolutionary War battles fought here, but there were battles here because of stuff, related to that. It is mostly, natives and pirates. And I know that's, you say pirates and everybody goes, no. But truly, there were pirates in this area, and I hate saying the same things over and over again, but this is the oldest settlement in the entire country. So it's there's probably stuff buried here that we don't even know about, but we're getting ready to go down and check out St. Michael's Cemetery here. It's
nice.
It's going to be amazing. And I mean, even if you're just take a walk, I just like taking walks in cemeteries because of all the stories that are there.
Right.
It sounds like you do a lot of cemeteries too, don't you?
Yeah, we do. When a lot of times we'll get called for like urban legend stuff and law enforcement because the kids are out there playing. And like we got one cemetery up here in Bramer, Missouri that we went to where the kids went up there, and supposedly if you see the blue light, your car won't start. They're hearing screams coming out of there. And it's a very small cemetery. So we got called to go up there and try to debunk some of the claims. We did see the blue light, but our car started. The screams were bobcat screams up there.
Right.
There was no human screams.
Right.
But we did have an interesting experience with one of our digital recorders. We had it setting on one of the headstones, and you can hear us clearly in the back of the cemetery all together talking. You hear, it sounds like footsteps coming up to the recorder and shuts it right off.
Oh, wow.
And we're the only ones there. I mean, you can see the road. The cemetery is right near the road. It's on a dead end. So we would have seen if anybody came up into the cemetery.
Right.
Is there? So, okay.
I think I know where that is.
I see a tall man walking around out there.
The cemetery is called Shiner Cemetery.
Yeah, I've never heard of it.
I know where it's at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's that one that sits right up on top of the hill up there.
Right.
And then we've done the Hans Mill Cemetery right next to Hans Mill.
Now,
Which one is?
We walked around Hans Mill, checked that place out with Carl.
What kind of evidence did you get down there at Hans Mill?
We got motion lights kicking on. We went on the anniversary of the massacre.
Mm-hmm.
And we got motion lights kicking on all the tree stumps. The meter, I have a meter with built-in REM pod. That was spiking and going crazy. And the spirit box was just talking away. And then we had a new investigator with us, and she was standing there. And I didn't want to tell her there was a big, tall shadow figure standing behind her. She turned around and ended up seeing it and started freaking out and crying.
Now, down there at Hans Mill, right there along the creek where all the big trees are at.
Yep.
When you first pull in, was you getting a lot of evidence right in through there talking on the spirit box?
Yeah.
That's where we were getting it through the echo box.
Yeah, we were getting... My dad, he went with us one time, and he went back to the truck because the mosquitoes will eat you alive down there.
Oh, yeah, they will.
So he was sitting in the truck, and he was doing his little own session in my truck. Well, he had something knocking on the door to him. And he had my little EMF detector with him, and he was holding it out the window, and it was spiking. And the very first time I ever went down there was in like 2012. A friend of mine took me down there, and my EMF detector just went crazy. They used to have that big crater in the ground before they filled it in. I jumped down in that crater, and I was getting EMF hits in that crater, and I'd step out with the EMF detector. They go back to green. Jump in there and shoot up the red.
Do you know why they had that crater there?
Is that from where they blew that truck up with the dynamite?
Yes, it is. See, years ago, Denise and Ron, some kids stole a truck full of dynamite and caps from the Kingston Quarry.
Oh, yeah?
Drove it out to Hans Mill and set the damn thing off.
Oh, wow.
It was felt all the way to Kansas City.
Bet.
Yeah, that's what I heard. It was felt
It
way
left
out
a
there.
30-foot crater diameter, and oh God, I don't know how deep that thing was.
Jeez.
They started filling it in when I was out there. I mean, you could jump down in it and get back out of it without any help.
Right. And then, go ahead, Denise.
I was going to say, a lot of times your EMF meters and stuff will go off when there's quartz around. So if you were down that far in the ground, you may have been surrounded by quartz, or there might have been enough exposure to that to make them go off.
Right.
Right.
But the other thing that happened with that EMF detector, we started walking back. We seen this figure peek out behind the tree. So the friend of mine that was with me, she started freaking out. So she wanted to go. So we started walking to the car. Well, that thing stayed red all the way to the car. I held it out the window as we're driving up the road. When we hit the gravel, then it finally turned back to green. It was like something followed us out of there and then stopped right at the road.
And for people that don't know, this area we're talking about there is called the Hans Mill Massacre, where, what was it, 17 Mormons were shot and killed down there, men, women, and children. And they supposedly were put into, after they were shot and killed, they came back and put them in a well. That well has never been found. Now, what I was going to ask you was, have you been down there in the last couple of years?
I think 2021 we were down there. That's when we did it on the anniversary of the massacre.
Okay. You know that area out there that was real muddy where the four-wheelers were going through it and everything? Okay. It would be the west side of it, to the southwest side of that mud hole out there, is where our dowsing rods from two different people led us to where the well is at.
Okay. Yep. That's the same place we found the well as well.
Okay. And the dowsing rod, you can count down how far deep. It says the top of the well is 4 foot below the ground. And that makes sense because that whole area has been flooded so many times that the topsoil on it would be all over the place.
Yep. And it was dry that one day when we were down there, and that's the only wet spot that stayed wet when the rest of the
Right.
ground was dry.
Exactly. So, and they were supposed to go out there sometime and dig some of that up to see if they could find the top of the well anywhere around there.
I know they
have
did a lot of
never
work
done it.
down there not too long ago. They put a fence up down there. There's a gate off the east side of the property now where the mowers go in.
Right. They've got it all gated off so people can't drive out in there like they used to.
They redid the road where that creek washes out, because that one day I had to mud through that thing to get down through there.
Oh yeah. Imagine, they take tour buses out there, folks, on this little gravel road.
You're kidding.
And I don't know how many times tour buses have gotten buried where they had
Yep.
to call big semi-wreckers in to pull them out.
Good night, Nigel.
Nigel. But yeah, that one is. So that's that area there. The next area that I want to talk to you about is the Cox Cemetery, which I tell a lot of people on the show is about 3 miles as the crow flies from Hans Mill Massacre.
Yep.
And that's about right. And it sets up on top of the hill. And me, Pastor Gary, and I take care of it and investigate it all the time. Denise and Ron's been down there with us. We did a camp out down there one night. Twice, matter of fact.
Yeah.
And
They were both cold.
They were both cold, but we managed to make it through the night and
Right.
catch a lot of stuff. So what experiences have you had, and what do you know about the Cox Cemetery?
Some of the experiences we've had out there is a lot of personal stuff, like footsteps we've heard out there. We've experienced a couple shadow figures out there as well.
Oh, yeah.
And got a few EVPs out there. We had one telling us to get out.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't provoke. We were going in there respectfully, being nice, because that's not us. We don't like to provoke. To us,
Right.
them ghosts were people too at one time. So
Right. Now we've heard the horses walking down the gravel road. Now, the sheriff's department doesn't go out there anymore because the deputies have seen soldiers on horseback.
mm-hmm.
Okay. I was told that by the sheriff's department and the deputies and all that and everything. And, I mean, we've heard that. We've heard horses whinny, and we drove during the daytime around within 5 miles of that place and never found a horse.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that, me and Gary heard that.
Gary's just out there.
Yeah. He
We
just
got our
came
first-
in from the Cox Cemetery. Gary goes down there more than I do and
Right.
everything. He's got game cams set up down there to catch figures. We've caught a lot of different stuff, and he goes out with his SLS camera and does different things. But that cemetery, now, that road that goes through it.
Yep.
In 1959, that road was not there.
Oh, wow.
They cut right through
Mhm.
the middle of the cemetery, because cemetery is actually on the other side of the road too.
You
Right?
just don't see it.
That's why you go up there at the very north end of the cemetery on the other side of the road, and you see big humps of dirt.
Mm-hmm.
We have found rock headstones in that dirt
Oh, wow.
that they cut out and everything. But
Now I can see why they're active in that cemetery, because they disturbed their grave sites.
And there's
Yeah.
more graves there than just the
What
than what's marked. And
Yeah.
it was prior to the Cox Cemetery being the Cox Cemetery.
Right. It
Right.
was another name of a cemetery. And then 1848, it became Cox Cemetery from Enix and Jeremy Cox. which you've seen Enoch Cox's headstone out there by the tree, right?
Yep.
That is my great grandfather.
Oh, wow.
We researched it back. One of the other people buried in there is paranormal pastor Gary's uncle out there. So, and we're getting, Denise, you see, we get the messages now from Rumble in there.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, he got another strange picture last night from there. But over on the other side of the gravel road, in that little stretch of timber over there where he has mowed paths, and we've cleaned a lot of that out in there where we go in to investigate.
Mm-hmm.
There's humps of dirt that shouldn't be where they're at, right? Which the dowsing rods tell us and everything. These are mass Indian burial grounds.
Right.
In there, which there's a lot of that around there. So
that's what I got when we were in there. You know, there were some of them that there's 5 or 6 whole family buried in there.
Mm-hmm.
But the bad part is we can't prove it unless we dig it up, and we're not digging up anything.
Well, it's like you go out there right now, there's 53 headstones out there. If you research it and find it, we know for sure there's 88 people buried out there.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 35 headstones that are gone. And if you notice in the cemetery now, you'll see ground that is sinking down just the size of a body.
Right.
So we have a lot of that going out there. But Denise seen Indians watching us in the timber when we was out there
on the side with the graves with the actual headstones.
Right.
Yeah, east side.
Another friend, paranormal person that was with us one time out there, seen a battalion of soldiers to the south and east down there in that big field right next
down
to
the hill
creek.
Where the creek comes. Yeah,
okay.
Matt was just my friend Matt he was just by the edge of the road just staring down there.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked up to him and I just noticed he was staring. I was like, "What are you looking at?" And he looked at me. He goes, "You don't see that?" I said, "What?" He goes, "There's a small regiment of soldiers down there camped out. I got tents and they're camped out there." He goes, "I can't believe you can't see that." I was like, "Really?"
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to put this picture up. Now, we caught this on the trail cam. The trail cam was setting in that little timber across the road, facing
last night,
the big cemetery. No, this is the one that we've always showed. Yeah. I don't know if Russell's ever seen it or not, and we'll see what he sees in it.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Looks like there's a face in it and part of a body. And then the other part of it looks sort of like a horse head and a horse.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's what we get out of it too, is a horse and a rider and somebody standing. But that was caught out at the Cox Cemetery on a trail cam.
Could that be maybe part of that militia that went out to Hans Mill and slaughtered them?
Don't know.
It could be, but you have to remember that area right in there. Years ago, there was a lot of Indian tribe people right there.
Yeah.
That after the Civil War, the cavalry came in to clear out and everything for that area. So, according dowsing rods and echo box and everything, there's Indians buried in that cemetery too.
And it could also be prior to the Civil War, back during when they were pushing the natives further west. Because, in Missouri, there was a lot of that, people came, settled, and hey, that's our land. And then there was fight, and then
they always settled near
war.
Yeah. They always settled near water. Show Creek has always been there.
Oh, yeah.
And everything. It was there before the county was ever developed and made.
Chillicothe was the same way, too. The natives settled in Chillicothe, and then they started moving them up towards Trenton. to get him out of Chillicothe. And Chillicothe's got plantations, and I won my friend's house out there on Polk Street. Hers was a plantation house at one time. And we actually investigated that. If you watch on my YouTube, you'll see the trailer for that house that we did. And I caught my one good piece of evidence out of there, which you can see on my TikTok. I put a whole bunch of clips together, and you'll see this face. The DVR camera's facing towards the window, but there's a curtain across, and you see the curtain's just gapped about like that. You see a face come in. You can see its nose, its eyes, its mouth, peeks in like this, goes back out real quick, fades back in real slow, stands there for a second, and then disappears. You can just see it just dissipate. And nobody was in the house at that time. We all left and went out to dinner. And she gave me the history on it, and it's got 2 confirmed slaves that lived in the house, and the owners, if something were to happen to them, the slaves were to go free. But right across the street from her house is an old Victorian house that has all the shackles and everything for the slaves in the basement. And then I don't know if you ever heard of Slagle's Mill and Cemetery. It's out in Chillicothe. We investigated that. The cemetery, Mr. Slagle's buried in there. He was the man that was accused of killing all his wives.
Oh.
Mysteriously, his wives would just vanish. One they found hanging from the bridge, the mill bridge. This last wife of his, she's the only one that survived. She died of old age. Well, her brother found out that Mr. Slagle was a bad man and that he was murdering women. Well, he came with a double-barrel shotgun to kill Mr. Slagle. Well, Mr. Slagle got the drop on him and shot him with a shotgun and buried him in the road up there. And they've never did find his body where he's buried in the road, but Mr. Slagle and his family haunt the cemetery up there. And we captured, I was with Livingston Paranormal Society in Chillicothe, and we were up there one night on Halloween. We caught a figure on the thermal standing on the edge of the woods. It would peek out around the tree and look at us. And you could tell the difference from the deer that was down in the field down there to that figure. And then we had rocks getting thrown at us in the cemetery. But there's a girl buried out there that was killed by her ex-boyfriend when she was in high school. He was drunk and he T-boned him and killed her instantly. Well, her mom lives up the road up there, and she buried her in Slagle Cemetery. And she's not at rest. She's haunting the cemetery. We captured her crying, screaming, wanting to get out of there.
The girl?
Yep.
Okay. I wasn't sure if you meant the mother, because she could be doing the same thing.
Well, the mother, when we were out there, she actually said, I own the cemetery. I want you guys out of here. Because too many kids go up there because they know the legend of Mr. Slagle. The mill part,
how many wives did he go through?
He went through 5 of them. And every one of them are buried in.
Is any of it fact-based? I mean,
they never
being buried there can be proven, but is anything else? Has any of that?
They never had any evidence. No evidence to convict them.
But are there any stories like the one found hanging from a bridge? Is there any proof that she was found hanging from a bridge?
Yeah, they found her hanging, but they ruled it out as a suicide.
Were there any newspaper articles about any of this stuff happening?
I believe there is. There is a court article where Mr. Slagle did go to court for it.
What time frame was this?
This was in the 1800s.
Oh, yeah. They probably could have got away with it.
Yep. The sheriff didn't have no evidence. Plus, he was a well-respected man in Chillicothe. Yeah. He was also a judge, so they couldn't really do much to him, didn't have no evidence, but he wasn't a very good man. And we captured an EVP out there from the spirit box. I asked who's here with us, and the voice comes on and goes, Henry Slagle, which is Mr. Slagle's son. And his grave's been desecrated several times. I mean, they vandalized it. His stone's knocked over. And I could see why the lady that lives up the road is mad with her daughter being buried in there. Too many people out there. So,
well, there's sometimes people, they get overzealous when they're looking at stuff. And I know, we looked, the cemetery here, the one that we were that we went to here, is the oldest one in this county. 1839, something like that.
Right.
Yeah. So they said, there, I found articles where they said some kids had pushed over some tombstones. Well, then there was another one that said it wasn't kids, it was a tornado.
Right.
So things get to be more interesting. People add stuff to stories on the legends and being the tour guide, we were tour guides at a very popular location, and almost every story they told about the house they've told about the house on TV has been a lie. It's all a lie. And so I'm very fact based. I love hearing the legends. Then my job is to go prove them wrong.
Right.
And that's what I did to the city of Atchison. Most of their stories were false.
But if they actually went with the facts, it'd been a better story.
Right.
And it wasn't just one, it was multiple places there. That's what's really bad, is multiple places.
Yeah, the facts were better than what they made up.
So,
well, we're supposed to go do the 1889 McIntyre Villa out there.
most of that stuff is true.
Yeah, that is haunted.
Yeah, that was one of the places that. So we worked for the city of Atchison at one time, and
7 years.
Yep. And so we had to do the trolley tours.
Yeah.
And the thing is they don't talk about Goldie a whole lot, but they talk about all the other stuff. We met the people that were the third owners of the house.
Mm-hmm.
The Garrity's. We met them, and we know Stephanie. I've had her on a couple times.
Yeah, she was on my show, and we were actually talking, and her REM pod was going crazy while we were talking.
She's very enthusiastic.
She's funny.
Yeah, she is.
Oh, yeah, she is.
Just
I know Brandon said to me, Russell, good luck.
That's who we investigated there with, was Brandon.
Yeah.
Brandon and Katie and and Sarah
Lemos,
and
Stephanie.
Oh, and Stephanie and
we had a lot of people there that night.
Oh, what's her name?
Right.
Oh golly, I just went blank on the mermaid medium. We just went blank on her name. Oh, and we're good friends. We talk all the time.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. But yeah, but yeah, we have huge history. We lived out there for almost close to 40 years. So it's very haunted area. And one of the things, Ron's great uncle was the sheriff in the Villisca axe murders.
Right.
Oh, wow.
It was apparently, it was funny. We had gone up there. We were driving. It was when the river was flooded. So this is back in like 2009 before you moved out here.
Family reunion. Yeah,
we were going to a family reunion. We went up the back way because the interstate was flooded. And we're driving along. We get to Clarinda. And all of a sudden it just hits me. I go, I wonder where Villisca is. And he tells me, he goes, he goes, it has to be up north. He goes, because anything like that was going on, my family would have told, we would have been there as kids, checking it out.
Yeah, because we did. We ran around, found old abandoned barns or houses and that, and we'd run around in them.
So
I said, if anything like that existed, I said, my cousins would have said something. And no sooner that came out of my mouth, I see a sign that says Villisca 9 miles. And I went, what? Did we see that right?
And I said, we're turning off up here.
Yeah.
And so we went through and, found the house.
You gotta be kidding.
And I took a picture and took it to the family reunion
Mm-hmm.
and said, look where we're going on Sunday. Guess what? The whole family's been now, just about.
Mm-hmm.
Just about all of them have gone.
Right.
Some of them with us, coming back from some stuff. And then a couple years ago, a lot of them went with us to the Malvern Manor. We gave the tour guide goes, so you want me to give the tour? And she looks at me and she goes, no, you can give it. So I gave the tour.
Right.
And Carl's going, really? You? Yeah, it was me. But we had a really good time doing that too. But yeah, we've got a lot of family history up through the Iowa corridor. Oh, I don't know. It's just funny. But yeah, Malvern, I've done a deep dive on the research of that one, the Villisca Axe Murder House.
Have you been to Malvern or Villisca?
No, I haven't been there yet. I've been to Waverly Hills Sanatorium, Missouri State Pen, Pythian Castle. We were supposed to do Octagon Hall in Kentucky, but the guy that we were going with, he didn't put the money in time, so we had all paid. So we ended up losing the building. They got worked out from under us. Yeah, he got our money back, and I told the guy, I'm like, you should have put the money in instead of waiting on your team. We had already paid. You could have just went and investigated with us.
Right.
Yeah,
you didn't have to wait on them.
Have you been to Ashmore Estates?
That's on our list to go to.
That's a good place too.
That's real good.
Apparently, we're going
day or night.
We're hoping to go in October. So somebody invited us.
We did Missouri State Penitentiary last summer.
We've done that 3 times. Yeah. We've done it 3 times. And every time we've went, it was really hot.
It was better before they cleaned it up. I will say that.
Mm-hmm.
We did get some pretty good evidence down in the dungeon cells. We had captured a woman, and I mean, we heard it with our ears too, even though the recorder and the camera caught it, a woman saying hello down there.
Mm-hmm.
So we figured maybe a woman come down in the cell block and yelled down to us. So we went up there. There was nobody up there. So I asked the tour guide, Diana, I'm like, does anybody report hearing a woman down in the dungeon cells? She says, yeah, you're not the only one that's told me that. And they never housed women down there. It was only just the firebug was housed down there.
Right.
And I was walking the top catwalks where that man got stabbed to death in his cell and crawled out of his cell and died on the catwalk. So I was pacing the catwalks like a guard. Well, the one girl that was with us from this other team, my dad had told her prior she was going to get touched that night, and she got touched on the back of the leg in the cell house up there. And I said to her, don't get scared. You're in a cell house was full of men. They probably haven't seen a woman in years. So to them, you're good looking. So they're going to come out and touch you.
Right. She's meat.
So
yeah,
you're just fresh meat.
Every building we were in. Everyone.
Carl, didn't you used to work there?
Yes, I did. Way back in the early 80s and everything. I trained down there for a month on ADSEG. That was a crazy place, especially when it had all the inmates in there.
That's what I heard. Diana and Jen, they told me a lot of the history. We were up in the museum. We went up to the museum to check it out before our investigation that night. And my dad ended up walking out of there, and it looked like somebody had taken their hand and grabbed him by the arm. He had finger bruises all over his arm because he shook hands with the mannequin guard in there.
Mhm.
Oh, well, I've had that happen too, but not there.
Yeah.
But yeah, you should hear
If
the
you want to know a
stories.
lot about Missouri State Penitentiary, read the book 40 Acres of Hell.
Okay.
The bloodiest 40 acres. Back in the years when it was one of the worst prisons in the entire United States.
Another
Inside
thing-
those walls.
Another thing, you can talk to Thomas. He worked there as a guard
Yeah.
when it was open, and he was.
Yep.
I don't know if he's still a tour guide there because I know Maggie's
Uh,
not.
last I heard, he had left.
Yeah.
Well, probably because we're not going to get into that, but Maggie's no longer a tour guide there, and
Yeah, I figured he
And
would
she-
he wouldn't stay around.
and his back's been hurting really
Right.
bad. And of course, they're on the Walking Dead tour of everything because Maggie
Right.
loves The Walking Dead. So
And if
Yeah.
you research Missouri State Penitentiary, it's one of the ones in the big history. Martin Luther King was assassinated in Memphis, right?
Hmm.
And the guy, God, I can't think of his name right now. One went blank. Who shot Martin Luther King?
Isn't it Lee Harvey Oswald or something like that?
No.
No.
That was
no, because Jack Ruby shot
Hen-
Lee Harvey Oswald. It was
Yeah.
Henley.
Ray.
or- Yeah, Ray.
Yeah, James Earl Ray.
James
Earl
Earl
Ray.
Ray. The night before Martin Luther King was assassinated, James Earl Ray was an inmate at that Missouri State Penitentiary.
Yep. I saw his cell. They still got his picture up by the cell.
Right. He walked out. They let him walk out and get into a car and drive to Memphis.
Yep.
This was all a big thing back then and stuff. But that's history through the Missouri State Penitentiary. A lot of it down there. A lot of your
I know.
famous robbers have been in there.
Right. I know a friend of mine caught an EVP out of the gas chamber, and it said, "Die, bitch," and
Yeah,
I'd
that
do it
was
again.
one.
And it was the woman. I'm wondering if it was possibly Bonnie that they executed. If it was
Yeah,
her.
They
Most
executed
likely.
what, two?
one woman.
Yeah,
But
one.
they-
One
but they-
woman was
Two.
executed there.
Was it one? I thought it was two.
one. She was the only one
One.
that was executed.
Yeah,
there.
she was the only woman,
executed
her
with
and her-
boyfriend.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was.
Remember,
Yeah.
the Wraith Chaser stuck with that story the
Yeah.
whole time. But
Right.
the last guy, one of the last
kidnapped.
guy to get killed there, Tiny Mercer,
Mhm.
our daughter's girlfriend's mother dated him.
Oh
He
wow.
was the love of her life. It's like, my God, you've got the worst.
She was cool.
Oh,
I know the
Oh,
female
no.
wing. We didn't capture nothing up there because they don't like men up there in the female wing.
What?
It stayed
They are
quiet
gay?
up there.
See,
Yeah, that was a weird,
it was. They had just
weird
opened
building
that.
too.
when we
Yeah, they
went.
just opened it.
They had just opened that part of the prison when we were there the second time, because we didn't get to do that the first time because and,
Right.
Maggie said they had that all closed off. That was why. And so we did that. Oh, and another interesting fun fact about James Earl Ray is he did time at Brushy Mountain.
Yep.
And that's where we want to go.
That's on my list also. We want to go there too and check that out.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, we're not too far from Old South Pittsburgh Hospital either.
yeah.
So we definitely got to hit that. Well, a bunch of stuff in Tennessee, but there's a lot around here.
Yeah, Carl, we were supposed to do an investigation this coming weekend
Right.
at a jail.
Well,
We're not doing it because of me. We're not doing it because we got the weekends mixed up or when we needed to babysit the kids.
Oh.
So we got to, and I had told Russell, I said, I
it's all right.
can't,
We're
I
gonna
can't
go.
take your stuff.
We're gonna go with Rob and his team another place.
And because I had told Russell that we were babysitting this past weekend.
Mhm.
No, it was next weekend. So we're taking the kids and going to Mardi Gras instead.
Oh, there you go.
Down in the haunted Seville area of Pensacola. So we're going to take the kids down there.
Right.
But we got another investigation coming up with Rob. He's taken us over to, it was a battle in the Civil War. It actually was the last battle in the Civil War is what it was. And it's just over here in Alabama, up north of Spanish Fort. So I forgot the name of the place. So we will be doing that. But that's the thing. There's so many places around here, and it's a fort too. So, but the thing is around here, it's like everywhere you look, there's a fort.
Mm-hmm.
There's like,
they're all over.
Or remnants of one that used to be. Oh, and mills. And of course, there's mills everywhere here because, well, we're in Milton, so they're everywhere.
Right.
So, but yeah, we're really wanting to check out Brushy Mountain, but we did hear some horror stories from there, didn't we, Carl?
Yes, we did.
That you can go and investigate, but you can only go with their team, the team that's there, and you can't take any of your equipment. You have to use theirs.
You have to use their equipment.
Yeah, I didn't know all that.
You have to do all that.
Oh, wow.
Take no pictures. If you do, they own the pictures. It's a mess.
That shouldn't be right.
Right.
What you get, it should be yours.
Right.
If it's
Now,
captured on your equipment,
it doesn't matter whose equipment. And, it's bullshit. You don't do that. And especially when you have to drive out that far.
I'm surprised anyone's even booking it, really.
They probably don't know until they get there.
Probably got more than that.
I don't know.
I mean, that's like Waverly. They didn't care. At first, they told us, no, you couldn't go live on Facebook. And then he says, as long as you don't bring the Waverly Hills politics into it, you can go live all you want.
So when did you go to Waverly Hills?
This would be 2 years ago.
Okay, so you were there during the political,
right in the middle of the big,
when
the
Ernie
city
and
council was trying to take their building for nothing. Yep.
And it's an interesting place. I mean, we had some good activity out there. The team that invited us, they booked it for 2 nights. We could only go for one. The first night, they didn't really get anything, but we walk in the doors like everybody decided, hey, I want to play. We're out on tour, broad daylight, walking with tour guide Vince.
Yeah.
And here's a figure standing in the window looking at us. Get to the back of the building, the bottom floor door, Vince sees a face peeking through the door at us. And he's like, I don't know if that's that other team that's with you guys. So I ran up there and looked and peeked in the window. There was nobody. And I seen those guys were up on the roof. All the way up on the 5th floor.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be dark.
No.
So we were on the 4th floor with Vince doing a walkthrough of the building. Vince and I both seen this figure peek out from around the corner and look at us. We yell out hello, figuring maybe it was one of the other team members. Nobody answered us. So then the other team was out on the outer atrium catwalks, come walking by, and Vince said, did you guys just come through this hallway? And they said, no. And then it started getting towards dark, and Vince is like, well, you guys are free, and go do whatever, go where you want. And so we loaded up equipment. My one member, she smoked, so she wanted to smoke a cigarette before we got started. So we were up on believe it's the 3rd floor, and I'm just standing there looking at the outer catwalks, and here's this black figure crawling across the floor down the hallway, which is known as the Waverly Hills Creeper. So my one member, I said to him, I said, hey, come here, do you see it? And he saw it. I said, just keep the camera pointed at it. And I started walking towards it, and as fast as I got there, it crawled down over the wall and went down to the bottom floor. Which they say the creeper might be the man that he every week he would go get it down to maintenance and get his wheelchair oiled Well, the one day he went down to maintenance to get it oiled, nobody was down there, and he ended up face planting off the loading dock out onto the pavement and killed him.
Mm.
And we decided we're going to do the Waverly Hills Challenge, which is the body chute at 3 a.m. You have to walk all the way to the bottom. And so we did that. We got all the way to the bottom, and there's a gate up top. We heard the gate slam. So I yelled up there, hello, figuring maybe the other team's playing a joke on us. They were nowhere to be found. They were clear up on the 4th floor. And we ended up snapping some pictures down there, and you see this black mass just fill the whole body chute coming down at us. And so we started walking back up. We decided we were going to do the morgue. That's the other Waverly Hills Challenge where you have to lay on the slab. And the tour guide says, you lay on the slab for about 15 minutes, have your team stay out in the hallway. I said, I'll do you one better. I'll lay in there for 2 hours. So I climbed in there for about 2 hours, had the K2 meter above my head, millimeter sitting on my chest, and they were both going crazy, and we had a Boo Bear sitting on one of the tables. And the Boo Bear just started sounding off. So we stayed there. I stayed there for about 2 hours, then we moved on to the 4th floor surgery room. And I said to my one member, I said, we're going to try a little experiment. I'll lay on the table, you wheel me under the light, and I'm going to play like I'm sick. Well, he wheeled me under there, and he was yelling, we need help, we need a doctor. I was acting like I was coughing and choking. Well, we had a motion light sitting in the doorway. Motion light comes on. I hear a noise right beside the table. I go to sit up. I couldn't move. It was like something was pinning me to the table. They restrained my legs, my arms. It felt like somebody was just taking their hands and going like this on my chest, trying to keep me from moving. And we heard 2 loud screams that sounded female come from the hallway. So I said to my member, I said, text that other team, find out where they're at, because they had females with them. And they were up on the 5th floor doing an Esser's method, and most of them were all out on the roof. So, and these screams were directly right near the door. And we captured that on recorder. And I was filming on my phone, laying on the table. So they only let you investigate till 4 a.m. So we started walking back, and it was probably about 3:45. This white figure comes running down the hallway, directly at my one member and I. Runs in between us. You could feel the cold breeze just shoot right past us, and then it just disappeared that quick. And the other team was coming in behind us. I said, did you see a figure run down that hallway? They said, no. So it darted off in one of the rooms along there and just disappeared. First floor, we went with that other team. We decided to tag along with them. They got a table and chairs set up down there. So we all sat around the table, and we had spirit box going. We had a K2 meter, my Mel meter with REM pod, another K2 meter, and we started asking questions. Well, the one K2 meter goes, Mel meter, other K2, and they were all coinciding together, going off at the same time, along with the REM pod. And the one guy was a skeptic, and we were letting him ask questions. And it would cuss at him. It would tell him to shut up, call him a dumbass. The one girl asked questions that said to her, shut up, you dumb bitch. And then they got to me, and my one member asked, do you like Russell? No, he's an asshole. So we all started laughing, because that's kind of an inside joke with my team, because usually on an investigation, I'll get cussed at. Because when I do my EVP sessions, my questioning is direct and to the point, because I'm there to find out why they're there. and a lot of them don't like that. So I've gotten several EVPs where I've been cussed at.
Right.
Yeah,
We have
but
a
it does seem
question.
like the spirits seem to know the skeptics. They seem to be able to find those.
Yeah. But we have a question here from Gary, the paranormal pastor. Now, do you use a Connect?
Yeah, I have an SLS Connect.
Okay. Have you ever caught a Connect figure coming up out of the ground?
Actually, no, not yet. I have not caught one yet.
Get down. We'll get you down there to the Cox Cemetery. We've caught
Okay.
2 of them coming out of the ground with the SLS. Gary has and stuff. And speaking of Cox Cemetery, there was one thing I wanted to ask you. Did you ever get a lot around the unknown Indian grave?
Yeah, I had a medium down there with us too, and she was picking up a lot of energy from around that area.
What was her opinion of what's buried there?
She thinks it might be Native American that's buried there. That's what she was kind of getting the feeling, that it was something native buried there.
Well, the story we heard from family members of the Cox Cemetery, right, was this Indian was a loner that came up and walking around the farms, and one of the family there hired him to work there. But he was riding on the back of a buckboard wagon, hit a bump, and his head got caught in the wheel and broke his neck. Now, that's the story we were told.
Right.
But if you know a buckboard, your odds are you're not going to fall forward to go into the wheel.
Yeah.
Okay. We've heard other different things. We've even heard that there's a baby buried in there and everything from mediums and stuff. But what gets me, it's unknown Indian, and that's not an old headstone there. You've seen it and everything.
Yep.
Ron, Denise have seen it and everything.
Right. And I mean,
now,
I know it was put there later.
Yeah.
Right. But now with our game cam out there, we catch people of all races, all nationalities, and everything coming out there, putting flags and putting flowers around that grave.
Yeah.
One even went out there and set a beer, a cigarette, and different stuff out there and everything. So
Native American offerings.
Yeah, but it's just a weird headstone in that cemetery,
right,
and stuff.
Yeah, well, it's even crazier that you got random people that are just showing up and doing this.
Right. Well, we went out there one night with a lady that is Cherokee Indian, basically, right? All the way through her belief and everything and her background. And she goes out there and stands by the headstone. We're over there. One of my team members at the time was holding dowsing rods. They crossed. He could not pull the dowsing rods apart. I went over there and it did the exact same thing, and I had a hard time.
Yeah, like they're welded.
Yeah, I've had that happen at the Sally
That's
House.
happened before, yeah.
Right. We had it happen just at that grave. Not anywhere else around there and stuff. So, yeah. And then across the road in that little timber area, you go to the south end of it. We did a live video there for Things Network one time, a 4-hour video live out there.
That was in July?
Yeah. July. And Denise and Ron were on there with us virtual, right? On the live investigation. I had the camera turned around so they could see everything. We had people in chat room telling us everything, right? Out of the blue, and Denise can tell you, out of the blue, she told me I was in the main part of the cemetery to go to the west and follow. We went down there and they got me to a certain spot, and that's where Denise and everybody in the chat room said there was a portal right there.
Oh, wow.
And it was quite an interesting evening there and
Oh,
stuff. I mean, I set the camera up on the phone up on a tripod and filmed this one area right there. And we tried different equipment going through it. You go to the
Mhm.
portal with dowsing rods, and as soon as we put a rock down there where they said exactly what they thought it was. And as soon as we'd go past that rock, the dowsing rods would slam shut and you'd walk 5 feet and then they'd open up.
wide open.
Wow.
So there's a lot of stuff. Like I said, we're gonna have to get together and go
Yeah,
down there
definitely.
and stuff.
Yeah, we'd definitely be interested. We'll try to get it worked in. Like I said, we're pretty booked up for the year, so
Oh, good deal. Yeah. We can catch some Friday, Saturday night or whatever
yeah.
time frame you got on when the weather's decent down there, especially in the spring. It's real nice.
Yeah, before
down
all
there.
the standing rain or standing water.
Yeah,
makes
for all
its
the
way.
rain, the mosquitoes and everything. And like I tell,
Rattlesnakes.
and out there, it is quiet. We're in the
Yeah.
middle of nowhere
Yeah.
out there. The only thing you hear is the bugs every once in a while
Yeah.
and stuff. And I was out there live one night doing a live investigation live. And I told all the watchers, I said, don't be surprised if you don't see a deer. And within 2 minutes, this doe come walking up the gravel road at the south end and walked
Mhm.
right up the tree line while we're out there and I'm filming it going, I told you, you never know what you'll see out here.
Right.
Well, that's why the game warden hangs out there.
Yeah, you do
He's
know.
probably shooting them and taking them home.
Yeah. The timber on the east side of the cemetery is owned by another guy
Mhm.
who loves baiting his deer, right? Which is illegal
Yep.
and everything. We was out there one night, me and Gary investigating, and to the south there was a big buck in the pasture. So we had the camera on it, just filming it and everything. And this truck come along the south end, and I jokingly said, well, it's probably the game warden. Well, sure enough, it was. That came up there. We told him what we was doing out there. He said, no problem. He goes, now there'll be another game warden showing up too, the head guy for the entire area. They came
Mhm.
up there. They've been trying to catch that guy for poaching and stuff. And I said, yeah, he drives through the cemetery on the north end. They go, well, some of that tracks are ours because we parked back up in there trying to catch him and everything. I said, that's no problem. I said, if we catch him out here doing anything, I'll film it and I'll send it to you guys. That's
Right.
not a problem because it's a joke. I mean, they have no respect driving across that north edge up there by the tree line to that
Yeah.
pathway back there. There's graves right there that are unmarked.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, it's interesting as all get out. Like I've told several people about it. Like I said, Denise and Ron's been out there. We've had other people out there. It's an interesting location because you got Hans Mill 3 miles to the east as a crow flies.
Yeah.
Now, if you go south 3 miles, you got Bramer down there where the Demo brothers were murdered.
Yeah.
So we're sitting right in there. Plus, you go up there on the gravel road back there, and there's a sign where a guy got murdered during the Mormon War back there.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of mysteries around that area. I
Yeah.
know the gentleman down the hill from the cemetery back to the east, when you're coming in, there's that big metal building up on the south side.
Mhm.
That's a hunting lodge. A guy in Kansas City owns it. He owns the property right across the gravel road from it too. He had some friends of his wanted to come up and go dig for Indian artifacts. They were up on that bluff just south of that metal building, digging
Mhm.
away, digging down, and they found some pottery and different things. This one guy looks up, he's telling us his story and everything, looks up and sees an Indian in full gear, right? Apparition and everything. He put all the bowls back in the hole, covered it up, told the rest of them covered it up, and they got the hell out of there. And they said they were never going back up on that hill again. So, but yeah,
I
there's
don't
a
blame
lot
It was
down
like
there.
they were never there, huh?
Yeah. They don't even come up and deer hunt that area anymore either. It scared that group of guys really bad. He said, when we talked to him, he said, you couldn't picture an older Indian in full war bonnet and gear, moccasin, the whole 9 yards. He goes, I seen that in color standing 15 feet away from me.
Well,
Yep.
I'm hoping someday to see Geronimo out here at Fort Pickens.
Yeah.
He was, him and his family were in, that's where they were locked up. And if it wasn't for the Native Americans, that property wouldn't look as good as it does today, I believe. Because they were the ones taking care of a lot of the stuff, keeping it clean. They said out there you would see lights from the Native Americans cooking in at the, because there was a prison as well, you know, but that's where Geronimo was held. And it's like, well, that's a, you know, unusual place, you know, send him all the way down here to Florida.
Mm-hmm.
You know, of course it's an island. I mean, it's not like you get very far.
Right.
I mean, but I can't wait to actually check out Fort Pickens more because I feel like it's one of probably the most haunted places we've ever been.
So Russell, what kind of equipment do you use?
I use your standard night vision DVRs. I've got 3 DVR systems. I got 2 hard wires, 1 wireless. I've got a handheld night vision camera, handheld full spectrum camera. I've got a modified Ghost Pro camera. I've got a thermal imaging camera, millimeters, REM pods. I've got EM pump, motion detectors. I've got it's called an anomaly camera that debunks your orbs.
Oh, really?
One side's night vision, one side's full spectrum. So if you got an orb that's passing through night vision, if it's a traditional orb, it should go through the full spectrum ultraviolet light.
Yeah.
I've also got the old Dr. Goss meter. I've got a K2, SB7 Spirit Box. I use the game cameras too, like when I do the outdoor ones.
Yeah. We use them inside too, as a motion. Set them up on motion, and it works pretty good that way.
My DVR cameras, I can set those to motion as well, so
takes the time.
Well, yeah, that's the one thing that people don't even think about. How much time does it take
to review everything?
A 4-hour investigation. How long does it take to review?
It takes forever.
And if you
I'm still going through evidence from 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And do you have a day job on top of this?
Yep, I work at a school as a head custodian.
Well, good for you, because you know, I had somebody contact me and said, "Hey, would you like to be a guest?" And Ron goes, "Did you tell them that you're not your average paranormal investigator, that you have a day job?"
They wanted her to interview at 11 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, really?
It's like, yeah, they not know you work. Or I guess they assume nobody works in paranormal.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, they figure
you got to work and do something to afford to be in the paranormal.
Yep. It's an expensive hobby with all the equipment.
Yeah.
That stuff's costly.
So when you've investigated, what is the furthest that you've driven for a paranormal investigation?
We've been all the way out to Ohio and did a case out there in Ironton, Ohio. We've done stuff in Oklahoma. We've been out to Kansas, Nebraska. I get calls to go even out to California, Canada.
I wouldn't go. I wouldn't go to California. It's just not worth. I mean, it's not worth your time unless somebody's paying you.
Well, with us being part of Cold Spotters too, we've got the Cold Spotters family all over too. So like Canada, there's Cold Spotters British Columbia, so they usually take care of Canada part, and we took over Missouri for Cold Spotters. Then in like Texas, there's Cold Spotters Texas, which is a good friend of mine. And so a lot of times we'll help each other out if I'm too busy, or like D&M Paranormal, Dane Eckelman, I work with him on cases. If we'll share cases back and forth to each other. If I'm swamped, I'll send him a case. If he's swamped, he'll send me one.
How do you create a network like Cold Spotters? Were you part of helping create it, or did you just come in?
No,
Somebody asked you.
I got asked by Banta Quill to take over. And with them, they don't just take anybody and everybody. You got to be an active, legit team that's actually out there helping people, not charging people to investigate. So they asked me to take part of it. And I've been friends with Rob and all them, and Rob helped me get started. She put her trust in us to take over Missouri for her. And like I said, she's got them in Texas. She's got them over in Europe. So her network's kind of expanded quite a bit.
Like I said, I mean, we get asked to help out with stuff. What's good for us, and probably Carl too, is that we're independent. We don't have to be, we're not affiliated with a ton of people. You know, if Ron and I agree to go somewhere, I don't have to hook up 5 people. I just go, okay, let's go. And same as Carl, if him and Gary want to go, they just got to coordinate between the two of them, you know.
Right.
And I think that's for us.
Yeah, we also like investigating with other groups too, because you get to see different ways to do things.
Different skill sets.
Yeah, you don't.
I mean, we work with a certain few. Like I said, we work with D&M Paranormal. We work with Raven's Eye Paranormal. They've been working with us. We met them in October at a Paracon that we were at with them, and we hooked up and worked on a bunch of cases together. We were able to actually bust up a sexual molestation going on in a home.
Oh, wow.
We broke up another one that was sex trafficking. We had got called into this old house, and we ended up finding there was more going on than the actual paranormal too.
Right.
The guy was pimping his wife out.
Don't they all?
Yeah, she's actually not legal over here. She's from the Philippines. So she was brought over here. So we ended up running into that, but we did capture some evidence in their house. Their house is real old. It was built in like the early 1900s. And the other case that we did, there was sexual molestation going on, which we were able to help that family with that and get them onto the right step. And now everything's proceeding as planned with them and getting the help they need.
Good.
They're going to need help for a long time.
Mm.
Yep.
That's one of the things. It just doesn't up and go away. You know.
And the funny part of that case was when we were at that Paracon, the lady and her boy come because he wants to be a paranormal investigator when he gets older. He watches the shows on TV. So they came and talked.
There's only one left. That's a whole other story.
Zach got rid of them all.
Yeah, I know. I'm not fond of him. But
he was very nice.
Well,
to me.
Not so much anymore, but
well, let's just say he's not welcome back at Missouri State. I know that. He went out his welcome there.
He burns his bridge wherever he goes.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know. So, but like I said,
so she came to us at the Paracon. Her son wanted to meet us. He heard that we were cousins to Ed and Lorraine Warren. So he started talking to me, and then I started showing him all the protection that we wear when we go out on cases to keep us safe. Well, when I showed it to her, she started freaking out. she started getting real antsy and spazzy, and I could tell there had been a history of meth using and stuff like that looking at her. So I called Raven's Eye Paranormal over because Julie does cleansings on people, and she's also a Reiki healer and all that. So they started doing a cleansing on her right there. And so towards the end, make a long story short, she went and took one of my business cards. She went up to Julie's booth and said, got one of her cards, comes back and says, "Do you remember talking to somebody named Nola?" And Julie goes, "Yeah, that's," and then we lost contact. She says, "Well, I'm the one you talked to." And I said to the lady, I said, "Well, you see how God works. You got an issue. He put you in our path. We put you right back into hers." So both of us went out there and co-opted, and we went out there and investigated together. We didn't capture nothing in the home except for what was going on personally. It was more the outside on the property where the bridge was. And we were capturing strange mists out there, and the ink box stayed pretty quiet, but we got a few K2 hits and millimeter hits out there. And then we ended up busting up another one where the guy was cheating on his wife. And this daughter was playing with the tarot cards, Ouija board, and she summoned something in the house to hurt her stepmother.
Ooh.
So we got there and come to find out it was actually something that was part of the earth that was in the house. It wasn't actually a ghost or a demon or anything like that. It was a reptilian looking thing. It was a Transgonian starseed. First time I've ever dealt with one of them. It was connected with the property, and they're summoning to do. They can do bad or they can do good. Well, the little daughter ended up drawing a picture of it because she saw it, and she saw it. It showed her a vision where it was grabbing her sister like this around her back. And we've got a video. My one member, Jen DeRillo Van Dyke, she posted a video of us doing an Esther's method down in the basement down there. And you'll hear a disembodied growl at the end of that session we captured, and mysterious bangs throughout the night. But we were able to do a cleansing and give it an offering, and it actually went back to where it came from. And it knew it wasn't allowed to come back in. And the family's good today. We're still in contact with them. Everything's good. Husband and wife patched everything up. Everything's back to normal. The stepdaughter, she's back to normal. She's not acting out anymore.
And if you'd have brought that story to Ken Deal, he'd have said that was a demon.
Yeah.
I guarantee it.
Oh, yeah.
I know what he'd have said. Yeah.
Well, the funny part of it was she's a medium. She channels. Well, she channeled into that thing, and when I mentioned the Lord's name, it laughed at me and says, "I am older than God." And then it cussed at me and says, "You're a funny little prick, aren't you?"
And that's when you answer, "I hope so."
Yeah, I did. I was a smart ass back to it.
Gary would have had a blast with that one.
Oh, yeah. And then another big piece of good evidence we captured, we did a hotel up in Rockport, Missouri.
Yep.
The old Op Hotel.
Mm-hmm.
And I was up in the library with two of my team members, and they were in the front part of the library. So I decided, I'm going to walk towards the back. I'm still in earshot and eye shot of them. Well, I get back there and I hear this loud bang, and you can hear me on the video go, "What the hell?" And my one member goes, "Was that you?" And I said, "No." I said, "Something didn't want me back here." Well, this metal toolbox, probably about that big, the lid had lifted up on it and slammed down with force. And I go over, try to trace the sound, and I end up recreating the same sound. And it ended up being that toolbox just lifted up and just slammed back down with force. On our DVR camera, the first time we were there, we captured, it looked like somebody taking a match and lighting one of those old time lanterns.
Oh,
Yeah.
hurricane lamp.
Yep.
Yeah, kerosene lamp. Yep.
Depending upon where you're from.
And then on the recorder, we ended up catching the old piano playing. Now, the piano in the ballroom does not play. The keys are broke, the strings are all broke on it, and we captured it playing.
Just a note here or there, or
Yeah, it was just one note it played. And that night, my father, he goes with us and he watches our DVR cameras because he can't walk too well. And we were all in t-shirts. We walk into where my father is and you could see your breath. He was freezing.
Mm-hmm.
And we had to get him a blanket, put a lamp on him to warm him up. And I walked in there. I ended up having to put my coat on.
Well, it's because all the spirits were watching you guys on the camera and laughing.
Yeah. They're all sitting there
probably.
watching.
They're probably saying, "Look at these idiots running around."
What time of year was it?
It was April.
Okay.
Yeah, so it could be really cold
Well,
Yeah, it could
up
be.
there.
And well, the roof also leaks on the building too, so you got all that moisture that came in when it rained. But we ended up going back there again, my dad, myself, and two of my other members. And we were standing in there. It was about 9 o'clock at night talking to the owner, and she don't like being in there after dark. So there's an old bell there, old service bell to ring for the bellboy. Well, my dad rings it. He goes to sit down in the chair, and you see this white glow just come around him. All of us seen it. We couldn't explain it, what was going on. And then it just disappeared. So we started investigating the lobby part, and I started ringing the bell, and I was live on Facebook, and I'm yelling for service, and you can hear footsteps upstairs above us. And that was the same night I had that experience with the toolbox. And when we did our walkthrough the first time we were there, and this was broad daylight, the door to the ballroom slammed shut as we walked through. Nobody bumped it. There was nobody back behind us, and it just fully shut. So the one night we were brave enough, my other two members, they decided they were going to go stay at the hotel. So my dad and I spent the night in the hotel there. And there's no power, so we were running a generator. Well, about 3 o'clock in the morning, generator runs out of gas. Kills all the lights, camera system, everything. I start falling asleep. My dad yells to me, he says, "Hey, wake up." I wake up and here's this about 6'5" black shadow figure standing in the doorway just staring at us. Which the owner was about 6'5". He was from Germany, big old burly guy. And we think he was just there just checking on his guests. They said he was one of the nicest guys you ever want to meet. He would pay people's back taxes. He'd rent the upstairs so people could store their stuff if they were losing their farms.
Wow.
And he used to run a speakeasy out of the basement, and he would bootleg liquor from the liquor store. He had tunnels going under the street over to his liquor store across the street. And they said there's actually, the old bootleg truck is buried underground behind the hotel in the parking lot.
Anybody
'Cause
ever
that-
take metal detectors out there to look for it?
No, they never did. And that place has been burnt down several times, even before when George Opp owned it. there was another guy that owned it, and one of the firemen was up on the roof, and he got overpowered with the flames and the smoke. Well, he thought he was jumping down in. Well, he fell through the skylight and hit the ground below, and the glass pierced his heart and killed him instantly right then and there.
Ooh.
So they think he's one of the ones that also haunt the place. Daisy Op, his wife, is also another one they say that haunts the place as well, because she held on to it until she hit about 87. Then she sold it. Another group bought it. Then they opened it up for a while. Then they sold it. This other guy bought it, and before he sold it, he went through and ripped out all the plumbing for the copper pipes, all the wires upstairs. And so this other lady, she bought it, and she had it open for quite a while, and then COVID shut her down, and then her daughter passed away. And so the place just fell in disrepair, and the roof was falling apart. We were actually helping her restore it, but she didn't want to sink any more money into it.
And it gets to that point. So when you said these other groups bought it, did they buy it as for a hotel, or did they buy it for a paranormal location?
They bought it for a hotel. They weren't into the paranormal or anything. They were gonna open it up, and I don't think they ever did. The guy just stripped all the pipes out of there, filled the place full of junk. I mean, there's wall to wall antiques in there, all kinds of stuff upstairs.
That's not
and a lot of it.
You know, that happened to the Pythian Castle. Not that they ripped out all the pipes, but the people who owned it at one time only lived in one part of the building, while the rest of it was ended up in disrepair.
Yeah.
And the ladies that own it now have had to put a shit ton of money into it to get just the portion where they live to be livable.
Right. And the only part on that hotel is good. There used to be a dentist office that they fixed up. They fixed the basement up to that. And that's the only best part that's not leaking. The ballroom's leaking. The lobby of the hotel, clear back to the kitchen, is all leaking. The second floor upstairs is leaking. The library on the hotel isn't, but that roofing membrane is just shot up there. The wind's caught it, tore it. She had a guy come in to do the roof. He took her money and ran.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we went up there and we started sealing the roof. We managed to get most of it to stop leaking, but she didn't want to go out and get any more of that roofing membrane. I said, we can only do so much.
Yeah.
And we silver sealed a lot of it, but we ended up getting a thunderstorm right after we did it, and a lot of that all blew back across, and the silver seal got ruined.
That sucks.
And we did a lot of history research up there. We found books up there. We found pictures of George and his family. And we had a bunch of kids broke in there one night, and they were doing their urban explorers and paranormal thrill seekers. Kid's only 14. Him and his buddies broke in there. His buddies started vandalizing the place. Well, somebody had seen him go in there. Somebody called the cops. Well, the cops came and got him. The one kid, he hid, and he stayed in there. He's been in there probably like 9 or 10 times. Well, he come up when we were there, and he says, which one are you, the owner? And the owner says, I am. And he goes, well, I'm one of the kids that broke in here and was hanging out in here. He says, I brought a Ouija board in here. And she's dead set against Ouija boards. So I got talking to the kid, and I'm like, are you an urban explorer or something? He says, yeah, and I like the paranormal. I said, how old are you? He says, 14. I said, you're coming in this place. You're telling your mom you're going to a friend's house. This place is falling down. You go in there, a beam falls on your head. The owner doesn't get down here all the time. You're going to lay in here for a week and rot.
Mm-hmm.
So I said to the owner, I said, can I take him through here? So I took him into the building and I took him back into the kitchen part where the ceiling's falling down. I said, you see all this? I said, you see all the black mold? You're putting your health at risk. So when we're in here investigating, we got respirators on. And we avoid that whole area altogether. We don't even go back in that part. I said, you're coming in here, you're vandalizing, you're thinking it's fun. They spread the fire extinguishers everywhere. They broke one of the door handles off the door. And I said, you're going to just lay in here and you get hurt, you're going to die in here. Especially if you get in the basement and you fall through one of them holes, you're going to drown because the basement got flooded out. And there's pits down through the floor where they got boards over them. The boards are rotten.
You know all about that.
It's probably a good 3 foot down into that water. And apparently he's been going through town, going into some of the other abandoned buildings in Rockport.
That's how he gets in trouble.
Yep. And I said, kids like you is what ruins it for us paranormal investigators that actually ask permission to go in these places.
Mm-hmm.
Like we tried to get in the old poor farm in Macon. I talked to the city and the guy says kids had ruined it for everybody else. He said, if we let you in there, then the ones that are going to feel they can go in there and we're going to have it all over again.
Yep.
He said, but I do appreciate you calling and asking permission. You didn't just go up here and just want to go in an abandoned building. I used to
hi to Irene before she disappears.
Yeah. Hi, Irene from Japan Paranormal.
Oh, hello. Welcome. I used to work at a golf course back in New York State, and it's a world-renowned golf course. They used to have a resort on there called Grossinger Resort up there. And the kids used to break in there all the time and go in there and vandalize. And I had a paranormal experience in that hotel. We were walking through, my dad and I, and this room door flies open with force and then slams shut. So I got it back open. I went in there looking, figure maybe homeless guy or a kid. I'm getting ready to throw somebody out of there because they don't belong in there. We were up on the 3rd floor, so there's no way for them to escape. They would have had to go through us to even get out of there. The beds, you can't hide under the beds. Closet doors are all smashed, so you can't hide in the closet. And there was nobody in there. So we went down to the basement. They got tunnels down through there that connect the buildings. Well, this black shadow figure goes through this tunnel. I went chasing it out to the other end, and people still say I'm crazy till this day for doing it because that tunnel could have came down at any time. The walls were all cracking. Well, the owner, Jenny Grossinger, she passed away in her house. And we think it might have been her just roaming around the hotel, checking things out. And she's kind of upset because people were stripping the copper out of there. They stripped her house. We actually caught a guy up on the roof one day, stripping the copper flashing off the roof. When he saw my boss and I coming down in the truck, he jumped off the roof, left his ladder, left all the copper. So we ended up taking all his copper stash and took it to the junkyard and used the money for the golf course.
Why didn't you just make a moonshine still out of it?
Yeah,
Yeah, you could have.
But I mean,
Another business.
That's the same with that hotel, that resort. I mean, I've got one picture on my Facebook page. If you look down in my personal profile and my photos, you'll see abandoned resort. You'll see the picture of the deep hole that I looked straight down and took a picture, and it goes straight to the basement down to where the boiler is. So when you hit that hole, you're falling like 5 or 6 floors down. And the one maintenance shed, there was a homeless guy living in that. And my boss and I actually caught him one day. He was sleeping in there. We went in there early in the morning and caught him. And they ended up getting him arrested. But it's people like that. Kids go in there and play paintball. I mean, you see numerous videos. If you go on YouTube, look up Grosinger Resort Hotel, you'll see numerous videos of urban explorers in there. And they vandalize it. They spray paint the wall in there. They leave their calling card on there. And that's what gets the rest of us ruining it for the rest, all of us trying to get in there to actually be legitimate and not vandalize and investigate.
Exactly.
Well, there's good and bad in everything, whether it's urban explorers, paranormal, cops, good and bad. Nature of people, and sometimes I wish we didn't have as many, but I can't do nothing about that.
Right.
Legally, I can't do nothing about that.
When is the anniversary for the Hans Mill massacre?
It's the night before Halloween.
Right.
I take it you do that every year, or have been?
We didn't do it this year because the weather kind of got bad on us, and then we were booked with Paracons and stuff like that, so we didn't get a chance to do it this year. And I had to work the next morning because night before Halloween fell on a Sunday.
Yes, I know.
But now we went to 4 days a week now, so I can actually, if I want to do an investigation on a Sunday, I can now.
So you guys don't, is school only 4 days a week there, or is it just your job is only 4 days a week?
School is only 4 days a week.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Which school do you work at up there, Russell?
Breckenridge.
Oh, you work at the Breckenridge school?
Yep.
Oh, okay. I thought you worked at the one in Chillicothe.
I used to work at Southwest for a while, and then I switched over here to Breckenridge. It was closer to home. I'm only 3 minutes down the road. Right. You want to talk about a haunted school? Breckenridge School is.
Exactly. I was getting ready to ask that. Have you investigated any time, or?
Oh yeah, we've done it several times. On my SLS Connect camera, you can see that on my TikTok page. Also, I captured a figure on the SLS on the second floor. We've got a picture of on our DVR camera of a woman standing over me on the third floor.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been up there at night, like during the summer. I do the summer maintenance, waxing the floors and stuff like that. So I'll go up during the week at night while nobody's in there to do the hallways. Not this past summer before, I was up there. I was waxing up on the second floor. I seen this black figure go across the main hallway past the gate to the second floor. So I ran down the stairs figuring somebody was in the school that didn't belong in there. Well, it had ran down the hallway, cut through the gym, and we just had the gym floor redone then. So I knew it couldn't have been anybody in the school. There was no foot tracks, nothing. So I started waxing the main hallway. Well, something taps on the trophy case right next to me. I'm like, okay, you got my attention. Hello, now knock it off. I'm trying to work. And when we first investigated on video, the south end was built in the 90s.
Right.
We pulled the bathroom door shut for the women's because it likes to move on its own. So we pulled it shut. Well, see these fingers go like this from the inside of the door and pull the door open. And you'll hear numerous voices up there. Like I was up there over the weekend disinfecting the building because we got a lot of sick kids right now. And I could have sworn I heard our kindergarten teacher talking down in the hallway. Now, there was an email that was sent out that nobody belongs in the building but me. And I went out there. There was nobody. Checked the parking lot. My car is the only car there.
And folks, this is an old school, an old town, and a little bitty town
Yep.
and everything. Have you ever investigated before any of those buildings on the main drag there in Brackenridge ever fell down? Or do you go up there all the time?
No, I've never did. But I mean, I've been out to the cemetery out here, Rose Hill Cemetery at night. I never captured anything. A lot of the locals say it's haunted,
Mm-hmm.
but I felt peaceful out there. There was nothing going on. It was quiet. Now
for
they say
our listeners, how many kids are in that school?
there's about 70.
Yep. And that's from kindergarten to 12th grade, right?
We're doing preschool all the way to 12th.
Okay.
And
that's like the school I went to in New Jersey.
Yeah, it's like
our
school I went to in
graduating
Kingston.
class, the 1 year there was only 4 in the graduating class. The 1 year. Year before that was only 2.
Well, that sounds like Baltimore downtown.
We had more than that in one class.
But at least they get a real good education over there because it's more of a one-on-one with the teachers.
Yep.
So,
I mean,
it's
classroom.
Yeah.
For an old building, the building was built in 1909. There used to be a school there in the 1800s that burnt to the ground, so they rebuilt it in 1909. The main hallway and the gym they added in 1953. The south end of the building was built in 95. So the gym actually used to be down in the basement.
Yep, like Kingston.
The locker rooms is the little boys and girls bathroom now.
Bathrooms, yep.
The kitchen was actually where the preschool room is now. That used to be it's a little room. I mean, you could probably maybe fit 10 people in it. That's how big it is. The other part of the kitchen used to be part of the gym as well. We actually, summer maintenance, we did the floor down in the basement, grinding the concrete, and I found the old gym lines down there.
Oh, really?
Yep. When I ground all the paint off the floor and leveled the floor out, I found all the gym lines, and I found that they had a Quaker Oats guy painted on the floor down there too.
Oh man!
I managed to find him too. But I mean, strange things happen all the time in that school. I mean, several of the employees, like the secretary, she won't stay in the building by herself. She's been in the office, had the door locked, and she's had the door handle rattle. She's been in the South End restroom and swore one of the maintenance guys, this was before me, was playing a joke on her because it sounded exactly like him, but he was up in the office helping the superintendent. And I was up there one day and I could have sworn our cooks came in. And so I went downstairs to go say hi to him. Everything was locked up tight.
Yep.
Our principal, she's had experiences in the gym. The one day her and I were going to meet a sub bus driver, and we both seen the stage curtain open up like somebody was peeking out at it. So she says, "Hey, can you go up there and check and see if there's any kids up there? They are, tell them to get to class." I go up there, look behind all the curtains. There was nobody. They couldn't run down past me because we would have seen them. I went back to her and said, "There's nobody up there."
So why is this school why is it haunted?
Well, Breckenridge is an old military town.
Yep.
It's named after John C. Breckenridge, a Civil War general. So there's been a lot of military through here. The Mormons have been through here quite a bit. Breckenridge has got a lot of Mormon history. And there's a lot of deaths in Breckenridge. We had that tornado come through here in 75 that killed quite a few people. Where my house is now, there used to be a house here, and a man was in the shower, didn't hear the tornado siren, That tornado come through, picked him up, sent him over to the rock quarries where they found him, still in the shower.
Yep. And that's the same tornado that tore up the J.C. Penney farm right outside of Hamilton.
Yep.
I know. I was in the FFA and had to go clean up the J.C. Penney farm when it went through there, and it went on over to Brackenridge. But also, Brackenridge has a lot of evil in it brought in because Brackenridge for years was known as the drug capital of Caldwell County. Right?
Oh,
Really?
Yep.
So similar to Independence, a lot of small business owners there.
Right. Well, everybody went over there to do the drugs and sell them and make them and everything because back then you only had a sheriff and a deputy that lived in Kingston. That was it. Wow. And
by the time they got there, you had time to get away.
Exactly. Yeah. And it was years. So, that type of stuff brings evil energy in and everything. And it was that way for, 20, 25, 30 years.
Yeah, it was that way. When I moved here in 2012, there was helicopters flying all over the place through here. There was drug busts constantly out here.
Mm-hmm.
Then we had that little boy that got shot.
Yep.
Uptown here.
Yep. There's a lot in that town. Wow. I mean, a lot.
And there's still some floating around this town yet as well. A lot, still some drugs.
Oh, yeah.
And troublemakers.
I don't think once it's there, it never goes away.
No.
That's what's really bad. But, I'm happy to say, that little town we lived in, Lewisburg, when that little had 5,000 people or so. Apparently it was everywhere, and I didn't even know it. Had no clue.
It's everywhere.
But yeah, it is everywhere.
When you get down to my side of town, it's actually the nicer part of Breckenridge. Everybody down here looks out for each other. They watch each other's houses. But the house across the street from me, Catty Corner, used to be a drug house at one time, and then a Baptist pastor had bought it and lived there till the day he died. He was telling me a story. He had somebody come for drugs. So he says, you wait here. He went in, he grabbed a brown paper bag, filled it with Bible study cards. And he said, now you don't open it until you get out of town.
Right.
Oh,
so
man.
He sent it with him. The guy got out of town, opened it up, and never came back.
Good.
Did he charge him for it?
He took the money for it. He took the money for it and gave it to the Breckenridge Baptist Church.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? We are near the end of the show. Where can everybody find you, Russell?
You can find me on Facebook at Beyond Life Paranormal Research Missouri, Cold Spotters, Missouri. You can email me at beyondlifeparanormalresearch@gmail.com. You can find me on Instagram, Beyond Life Paranormal Research Missouri. YouTube, Beyond Life Paranormal Research, the Missouri edition. You can also find us on Google. If you type in Paranormal Investigators of Missouri, we're the first ones that pop up. You can find us on all the paranormal sites that list investigators and teams in the United States. You can find us on TikTok at BLPRMO. And that's about it where you can find us.
Tell us about your podcast and where they can find that.
They can find my podcast on Supernatural Inc. Shaman Sundays. You can find it on Supernatural Inc. on YouTube, Twitch, Supernatural Inc. You can find it on my YouTube, Beyond Life Paranormal Research, the Missouri edition, and my paranormal group page. And I'm on every Friday night at 8 o'clock. This Friday's my guest is going to be Katie Stafford and Katie.
Good.
What the hell? Why would you have them on?
You got them both on. That's unusual.
Yeah, you got to have them both.
Yeah, got to have them both so you can confuse everybody with Katie and Katie.
Well,
yeah.
Katie will be on time. KD might be a little late.
Well, Katie's on call this weekend, so he says, if I get a service call, I got to run out.
Yeah, God knows people can't stop playing their video games.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Yeah.
And then
But
Brandon will probably pop on. Sometimes he does.
Right.
When I had Amanda Quill on there, he kept popping up. Amanda would call lightning bugs glow butts. So Brandon just kept flashing the hashtag glow butts.
well, that's Brandon. So
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
and
That's Brandon.
we're only 7 hours from Brandon. Now,
Nice.
So, but you make sure
Right.
you tell Katie and Katie that I said hi.
I
They
sure
owe me a
will.
phone
Here.
call. They owe me a phone call.
We're
Of course,
getting
I
ready to
can
do
talk to
some stuff with KD. I'm getting ready to book him for an event that we do in October. We do the History and Haunts of Carrollton, Missouri
Okay.
Right.
for the Chamber of Commerce. And this year they're going to do something different. They're going to do their History and Haunts trolley ride. And then anybody that pays extra gets to investigate with myself, KD Stafford, and the rest of my team at the old orphanage.
Right.
Make sure you have Katie there because she's really into it.
Oh yeah.
She's really
Oh
good.
yeah, she's going to be there. I'm wanting Brandon to come down too.
It's a long drive, but he'll do it. So
He'll do
Oh,
it.
yeah.
what other events are you going to be at this year?
We're not sure yet. We're working on some of the Paracons that April and Bertina are doing. I know we're booked for those, and we got another guy that's talking to us about one in Kansas that we're going to be at.
Dodge City or Wichita or Salina?
I think Salina.
Right.
That's a long drive. Just be aware.
Yeah.
It's a long
Yeah,
drive.
it is.
I actually did an investigation out that way. So
Are they talking about doing it at the?
Not too bad whenever you have to drive out there all the time, I guess.
Yeah.
It wasn't
Yep.
bad.
Are they talking about doing it at the salt mine down in
They-
down there?
I think so. They haven't given me any details yet on it, but we're working on an event with the haunted movie theater that we investigate in Marshall.
Okay. Oh, that was one that was on
Dead Files.
Dead Files.
Yeah,
Right.
we're the only team since Dead Files. She don't let teams in there except for us because she don't want the wrong things going on in there. But we were able to prove that Amy Allen's a legit medium.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I have zero doubt.
Yeah.
We
definitely
backed
is.
up all her claims with evidence. Did you ever watch that episode Dead Files Revisited? They actually
Probably.
they went back there and they brought a priest in there. Well, they captured in the back hallway a growl. We actually got the same growl on our audio recorder.
So they were never able to clear this place out?
No,
what
I mean
Amy being there?
there's too many places for them to hide. I mean, there's tunnels in that building. They can go up in the catwalks. Up there in the balconies, nobody's been up in those balconies since like the 1920s. I'm the only one that's been up there with my team up in the balconies since then. And so I had a member actually get partially possessed in that movie theater.
Wow.
Well, we can't talk about that now. We don't have time. So,
Yeah, we'll have to get him back on the show again and finish some of the
Yeah.
conversations.
Definitely.
I will
Anytime,
send you
Russell.
some dates here in the near future. Please,
Okay.
everybody, check out the Paranormal Pride on Monday nights at 7 p.m. Central, right here on the Bill of Rights Network, and any place that you watch the Bill of Rights Network, and also on the Paranormal Pride Facebook page and the Paranormal Pride on YouTube and Japan Paranormal. So make sure you check that out. Currently, I don't have a guest for Monday. I may not have a show this Monday. It's my daughter's birthday. I'm waiting to find out if she has to work. But other than that, you can also catch me right here with Carl every Tuesday night at 5 p.m. Central with Ron and whoever I bully into being on with us.
That's right. But we want to thank everybody for joining us tonight on the Bill of Rights Network and on the Temple of Phoenix Rising Entertainment Facebook page, Things Network Facebook page, which I'm now the chapter of Things in Missouri here, and everything, and on Japan
That's
Paranormal. And
There really
always
is a
check
cat
us
here.
out on Born TV on Rumble. If you watch over there now, your chat will come live in our chat room over here. So always check us out and everything. We will see you next week here on Paranormal Nation Radio. Have a good night.